make things in the world is changing. Some people are worried. We're not. We see it as an opportunity to become fully digital, climate neutral, and highly innovative in these challenging times. And EIT manufacturing is leading the way. We're creating a Europe-wide community of businesses, students, researchers, engineers, workers, digital nomads who are all working to improve your everyday life.
Hello, my name is Aurea Rodriguez.
My name is Harry.
Nuno Gouveia.
Sebastian.
From France.
From Portugal.
We want to help
Reduce energy waste.
To transform and accelerate the European industry into the digital era. Bye.
Bye guys, see ya. From a network of industry heavyweights to up-and-coming startups, we're constantly on the lookout for great partnerships. By pairing knowledge, talent, and the right skills, we're able to challenge what we already know and create the unexpected.
We want your ideas to come to life quicker, your investments to reach markets smoother, and to create more resilient supply chains.
It's worth fighting for. New friends, new skills, and smart machines fully connected using fewer resources and taking care of the planet. We're not just about education and innovation for the industry, but we're also about ideas that drive society forward and make it grow. A new Europe is emerging. It's green, connected, and digital. Are you ready? We are. Be part of the change.
And good morning. Welcome to all of you, and a warm welcome to the second day of the EIT Manufacturing Summit for 2020. As many of you may know, EIT Manufacturing is headquartered in Paris, and it's organized in 5 co-location centers all across Europe, so cities like Gothenburg, Vienna, Milan, San Sebastian, and Darmstadt. And we will have the opportunity to meet all of those CLC directors later on today. But thanks to COVID, we are streaming from Berlin, and where it's a very chilly morning. So I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you from the German capital. And as yesterday, of course, we're going to have a very international gathering today. My name is Karen, and for anyone who is just joining in today, I'm going to bring you up to speed. EIT Manufacturing's mission is, in keeping with the EIT innovation model, to bring European manufacturing actors together in what we call innovation ecosystems. Now, these in turn can foster the vital links between business and research and education that can then drive innovation for a more sustainable and competitive manufacturing sector over the long term. Now, on day one, we started our overview of EIT Manufacturing's activities for their first operational year. And the take-home messages yesterday were really starting off with the fact that transformation should be seen as an opportunity, that efficient networks and a culture of collaboration between ecosystems will help Europe to drive its digital transition. And of course, finally, that data will be driving all of these changes. And new skills and upskilling will, of course, be crucial, along with flexible mindset and, to some extent, a change of mindset. So today, on day two, we're going to be looking more into the specific innovations and technologies that are changing the manufacturing landscape and showcase a lot of concrete examples of how the sector can support Europe's bid for climate and neutrality and, of course, digital leadership. Now, a quick reminder to our participants of just a couple of things before we get started. First of all, I've been asked to let you know to please complete your profiles with company details and other info on our site. I believe there's an icon in the top right with your name, and that's where you can go. And this, of course, will make networking in the expo area much easier. All sessions from yesterday were recorded, so if you had to miss out on anything, do know that you can still access them on the Summit website. For Q&A, obviously, at the top right of your screen, there's a Q&A button, and that's where you can post your questions. We will try to include as many as possible. Social media, for those of you who are following the Twitter hashtags, in plural, are EITM Summit, all uppercase, but also Manufacturing Impact and hashtag Manufacturing Matters. There's a lot of buzz going along on those hashtags as well. So be sure to get in on the conversations. We will have 6 sessions today, just for your info, also punctuated by some short breaks, so do not be alarmed when we have to go into a break. Rather, take the opportunity to look out the window. Obviously, it's a long time to spend 2 days in front of your screen, and do take advantage to stretch your legs and not get fatigued. And don't forget, finally, about the Boost Up final later this afternoon with 11 finalists from all across Europe who will be battling it out for the innovation stakes. And with that, I can kick off today with our first session, which we've entitled Europe's Industry as a Catalyst for Change. And I'm very pleased to have EIT Manufacturing's COO, Chief Operating Officer, Dimitris Mavrikios, here with me. Welcome to Dimitrios, and let's get him on screen here with me. There he is. Good morning, Dimitris. Are you with me? And thanks for helping me open this day.
Good morning, Karin. Nice to see you. And let me also extend a very warm welcome from my side to our distinguished speakers from the European Commission today, and also all our participants. I'm really looking forward to an exciting second day.
Yes, so am I. Okay, and we'll get started, because I wanted to ask you, some key words that came up yesterday were obviously things like greening, resilient, but also interesting terms like process resilience, network intelligence, and collaboration platforms. And there are so many opportunities really embedded in all of these terms. So when it comes to the future of manufacturing, Dimitris, what do you see as the most striking changes that we have to expect?
Yeah, what is the future of manufacturing? it's all about making things in a changing world. I mean, today there are a lot of changes in consumer demand, changes in the nature of products, the economics of production, and the economics of the value chain. And all these are actually leading to a fundamental shift in the way manufacturing companies do business. Customers demand personalization and customization, so the line between consumer and creator continues to blur. Products become less objects of value in their own right and more the means for accessing information and experiences. Technologies such as additive manufacturing are making it possible to cost-effectively manufacture products more quickly in smaller and smaller batches. So innovative manufacturing models such as distributed small-scale local manufacturing are arising. Digital technologies are also narrowing the distance between manufacturer and consumer and thus allowing manufacturers to bypass traditional intermediaries. And of course, EIT manufacturing aspires to play a key role in making these big changes happen.
Dimitris, you know, you've had a very busy and obviously an extremely challenging year behind you with the first operational year for EIT manufacturing, and yet so many of the changes that are supported by digitalization that we're talking about have been really accelerated by the current pandemic crisis. So I'm wondering, would you say that it's almost been a blessing in disguise in terms of actually forcing the manufacturing sector and many other sectors besides to rethink and redesign their production and supply chains?
Yeah, indeed, manufacturing has been among the business activities that have been most negatively affected by the COVID-19 crisis. The pandemic has been heavily disrupting both the demand behavior as well as the supply and the capability of the companies to produce and deliver goods to the market. Preliminary studies reveal, though, that companies which have been implemented Industry 4.0 technologies before the crisis, such as automation, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, have really managed to deal much better with implications of the crisis on their production. The crisis clearly demonstrated the positive impact of digitalization on agility and resilience. And this is a really strong incentive for companies to further invest in modernizing their production. But apart from that, I mean, companies have been also forced to rethink the organization and operation of their supply chains, including, for example, how to gain real-time situational awareness of the supply chain affecting critical materials and components, but also how to prepare for supply chain pivots that could require, for example, identifying alternative suppliers.
Yes, it's obvious that the companies that had already made strides to make that digital transition are the ones that are coming out the winners in the end with the COVID crisis obviously still ongoing. Now, just one more quick question. There are several initiatives launched at European level, obviously the Green Deal, the new industrial strategy, all of which are very ambitious in terms of their climate goals. What are the opportunities for Europe's manufacturing sector to help reach these goals? Just quickly.
Indeed, these are initiatives with a huge impact for Europe's economy and society. And manufacturing can contribute to the Green Deal goals by simply producing more with less. More in terms of quantity and quality, and less in terms of material, energy, and emissions. There is indeed a huge potential, for example, in the dematerialization of the product development and validation. Modern digital technologies are used to drastically reduce the number of physical prototypes that were necessary in the past in order to validate a new product. And as far as the industrial strategy is concerned, there is indeed a huge opportunity to make Europe leading manufacturing innovation globally. One critical aspect that I would like to mention is that the reskilling and upskilling of our industry workforce. European manufacturing can contribute to that by introducing novel training paradigms such as the teaching and learning factories, which are extensively pursued by EIT manufacturing programs.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dimitris, for helping me open the day with these insights, and I'm going to say goodbye to you in Athens. Sorry and apologies that we had a couple of a couple of technical difficulties there with the sound, dear participants, but I think Dimitris managed to get all of his information in, and I hope that the sound quality coming to you was okay and manageable. It's time for us, of course, now to introduce our political keynotes, and it is worth noting, dear participants, that if you read the news this morning, obviously yesterday, EU leaders have finally agreed on the new budget of 1.8 trillion euros. That's for the next 7-year section, and of course the landmark COVID recovery package. So some good news there to start the day and to greet our two speakers from the Commission. First of all, I'll introduce Lucilla Scioli. She's the Director of the Artificial Intelligence and Digital Industry within DG Connect at the European Commission. So she's responsible for the coordination of the European digitization of industry strategy, and of course for policy development in the areas of AI. And so we look very much forward to her view of a green and resilient Europe. Ms. Scioli, welcome from Berlin, and can you hear me?
I can hear you. I must admit, sometimes I lose you, but not, at this moment I can hear you.
Okay, well, let's do our best. Lucilla Scioli, the floor is yours, and take it away with your keynote.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to this event. What I would like to explain today is maybe a message that has already been given by Dimitri a few minutes ago about the need for industry to rely on digital technologies if we wish to meet the ambitious climate targets we have set for ourselves. In fact, the European Commission, and this European Commission in particular, has set the Green Deal and the development of digital technologies as the main priority areas of its mission. And in terms of the Green Deal, as you know, the objective is very ambitious. By 2050, we would like to have a carbon neutral economy, which also has very strong implications already for 2030. And the industry and the manufacturing industry, of course, will have to go beyond its normal to be able to implement and help achieve those objectives. In fact, we have a choice. We want to reach sustainability. We cannot do that without technology. Even before the Industrial Revolution even started, probably it was not possible to meet those objectives. The only way we can meet the objectives and the only way we can do it relatively quickly is through the use of advanced technologies. And many of those technologies are actually digital technologies. But the implementation of technologies can be complex. Technologies themselves are polluting. I think that I saw an estimate about 3% of the emissions actually come from digital technologies. So we have to think of a strategy, and that's what I will explain you today, that takes into account both the ability of technologies and new technologies, and I will talk about artificial intelligence in particular, the impact they can have on greening the environment, as well as the fact that they need to green themselves. First of all, we have to think that digital technologies nowadays are everywhere. Most of the objects around us are so-called smart, and any machine has a computer inside. So on the one hand, this is very good because this is going to facilitate our efforts of making our economy greener. On the other hand, we have to make sure that this computer is not too much polluting itself. When it comes to technologies, nowadays everybody talks about artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is a great opportunity for our economy. It's a process technology, so it's a technology that needs a lot of data and that processes data. And it has, it can have a very important impact on our environment in many ways. In agriculture, here we have a little picture in agriculture, which is not exactly manufacturing, but the impact it has on agriculture is very similar to the impact it can have in manufacturing, because what artificial intelligence can do is to be very good at optimizing resources and managing resources. So it can enable precision farming in agriculture, for example, managing also not just the use of pesticides, but also the use of water. And the same it can be done for manufacturing, for energy sector, where it can really optimize the flows of energy, where it can really anticipate and predict the use of energy and also improve, if you want, for example, the use of renewable energy. It can help in the traffic. It enables smart traffic and smart city solutions. It enables waste processing. Nowadays, we have great robots that can really help from that point of view, but then we have to make sure that they are artificial intelligence enabled to perform those tasks, and so on. And actually, I would like to highlight how important artificial intelligence can be for climate change. Simply in terms of modeling climate change, we need artificial intelligence and we need to run these simulations on supercomputers. So the convergence of artificial intelligence with supercomputers is actually enabling a lot of new applications that are going to be favorable to the environment. And of course, in manufacturing. Artificial intelligence, we all know, is very useful for supply chain management. It's very useful for predictive maintenance. It's very useful in enabling industrial robots on the factory floor. And then it has many tasks, from inventory manager to monitoring and helping the diagnostics, the customer care, generally speaking, predicting tasks in advance, and sometimes automating those tasks so that the activities become also less material, as it was indicated earlier. And this is also going to help energy consumption. But for artificial intelligence to really make a difference, we need to have access to a lot of data. And the European Commission is now working on the development of data spaces in different sectors, in healthcare, in agriculture, in energy, but also in manufacturing. And this is an important exercise to which I think the community needs to pay a lot of attention to. The focus is on our ability to share, pool, and reuse data across organizations. Recently, the European Commission, a week ago, published a Data Governance Act, which already put forward ideas in terms of creating intermediaries that would allow different actors to engage into this kind of activities, and therefore facilitating the use and the reuse of data. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, the real complexity is the fact that there are many different sectors within manufacturing, very different value chains within manufacturing. And so we will be paying particular attention to this aspect, and we will support in that through the Digital Europe program that I will mention later. But it's going to be very important if we really want to enable the use of AI in manufacturing to be able to, among other objectives, green manufacturing. As I said at the beginning, however, AI, like many other digital technologies, is not really green itself. AI consumes a lot of energy. And you may have heard a lot of discussions on this new GPT-3 artificial intelligence model, which has been developed under the idea of Elon Musk by OpenAI. And here it's a model of AI that really requires a lot of energy use. And this is just an example, but in reality, neural networks, deep learning, which are the most common approach, and they're becoming increasingly common, are more energy consuming than more traditional artificial intelligence approaches. And this is an issue. This is an issue because it means that this technology has to limit its own emissions, and therefore that certain approaches should be used only when it's strictly necessary. And in our research program, and Peter Droll later will tell you more about the research program, but we do plan calls on helping to improve optimizing the use of artificial intelligence and the use of the data in ways that are more respectful of the environment. And also, the other way is to also improve our electronics, which is the basic infrastructure at the basis of all the computerization, including artificial intelligence and that is where the energy and the levels of energy consumption come from. But the good news is that artificial intelligence is driving some important transformations, in particular in manufacturing and in industrial automation, as well as it does actually in other areas like mobility or healthcare. And this is the transformation to edge computing. Now, we believe that in 5 years' time, 80% of the data, which today are on a central cloud, in 5 years' time, they will actually be in local clouds, in edge clouds. And these clouds will be much closer to where the data are collected. If you think of a smart factory, it means that the idea is that the data will be collected through sensors, through the Internet of Things devices, and then they will be transmitted to a local server, which is on the factory floor or very near to the factory floor. And the artificial intelligence applications will process those data on the spot. So this edge computing, as we call it, will help us in greening a little bit the economy by avoiding that the data flows have to go to a central cloud and then back to the factory, for example. Of course, to do this, you will need to have better 5G networks, and we will have to make sure that the electronics underpinning also those local servers are energy efficient. But it's an important transformation because it's a transformation that will allow real-time processing of data and real-time activities. I'm thinking in particular of the robots on the manufacturing floor who will be able to react in real time to the data they have been collecting and they have been delivering. Now, I mentioned a couple of times the electronics underpinning all this. It's very important because it's going to be the electronics of the artificial intelligence. It's also the electronics of the local servers that I just mentioned, or the electronics of the robots. And the European Union is engaging in a microprocessor project. The idea here is to engage in the next 7 years in the development of processors that can really run on edge computing. And that means in the factories, that means in the self-driving cars, that means in aviation or in defense or in other areas. And what is important is that the European Union has to engage in this project because we have to become much better in developing processors that are energy efficient. Nowadays, artificial intelligence relies a lot on accelerators like the GPUs produced in the United States. They are not very energy efficient. So the capabilities of industry in this field in Europe is very much about developing chips and components that are energy efficient, making sure that they're secure and that they respect privacy. These are our European values, and our technological development in the future for us will have to reflect our European values. It's what we call technological autonomy. Technological autonomy is not about closing our borders and not importing anything from other countries. It's about enabling our capability and strengthening our capabilities of developing technology that respects our values, such as energy efficiency and trusted technology. Just a reference to another technology that is very important in manufacturing, which in my opinion in the future will be spread increasingly more on the factory floor, and this is digital twins. It is already a concept of Industry 4.0 that is already relatively spread nowadays, but I think that in the future there will be more of the digital twins. If we can manage to reduce the cost of the digital twins, they can really help in running big data analytics, mixing physical models with digital models, and really allowing us to solve complex systems and bring forward activities in manufacturing at lower cost, as I said, and possibly with greater results than what we already have today. And our ambition is to apply this in manufacturing as well as we apply this in other areas, like we have an objective of Destination Earth or a digital twin for the human body and so on. So I think that really in the next few years, digital twins will help revolutionizing manufacturing and also contributing to its energy efficiency. One word about the funding programs. As I said, my colleague Peter will talk about Horizon Europe. And we support public-private partnerships that are very relevant for manufacturing, from the Made in Europe public-private partnership, which follows up on factories for the future, to the public-private partnership on AI, data, and robotics, to the public-private partnership on photonics. These are all areas that are going to be really important for manufacturing. But we also have a new program, which is called the Digital Europe program, which is instead aiming at supporting capacity building. It will do that focusing on high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and data spaces. And the reason why I mention it here is because it has some very important activities for manufacturing in terms of digital innovation hubs. These you already know very well, that will help SMEs uptake Industry 4.0 and advanced manufacturing technology, but also testing experimentation facilities in manufacturing. We will be supporting facilities that create a real-world environment where companies can actually test their innovations and be faster in bringing their innovations from the lab to the market. And last but not least, it was mentioned earlier that yesterday finally the European Council agreed on the next generation EU program that includes the Recovery and Resilience Facility. This is a 750 billion euros facility that is distributed to member states to be able to implement many of their activities. 20% of this facility will have to be spent in digital, and it can be used for Industry 4.0, digital innovation hubs, and also some of the research activities that are carried out at the national level. So this is European money that is now, member states are working on national reform plans to check with the Commission how best to spend this money. So I think it's very important for companies to be in contact with their industrial associations, with the ministries, and make sure that Industry 4.0 manufacturing activities are actually supported through this program. It's a big opportunity. It's really a very large amount of money. It's the biggest program the European Union has ever had. And please keep an eye and do activate yourself to be able to make sure that this program contributes to your objectives. And of course, one of the main objectives of this program is green. I thought I would have another slide. This is my last slide, just to tell you that if we need to move to 2030 with intermediate objectives for the Green Deal, we have to do a lot, and industry has to do a lot. So I think I gave you some ideas today, use of digital technologies in manufacturing, but also make sure that the workforce is reskilled, make sure that the workforce does have the appropriate skills to use these technologies and implement these technologies in the workflow. This is a very important element. It was also mentioned by Dimitris earlier, and I would like to conclude exactly on this tone, because there is no way we can increase the use of technologies in manufacturing if we are not able to raise the skills levels of the workforce that is active in this field. So thank you very much for listening, and have a very good conference.
Thank you very much for that keynote, Lucilla Scioli. Skills, obviously an issue that we discussed at length yesterday and will be discussing later on in one of the sessions this morning. Thanks very much for that overview on how AI will change manufacturing, actually revolutionize manufacturing, and of course how it will be crucial to optimizing processes and obviously decreasing energy use and material use. I'd like to just ask you though, because you mentioned, for instance, 5G networks. This green transformation that we're talking about requires incredibly heavy investment, as you've mentioned, and lead times, obviously, from Europe's more than 2 million manufacturing companies. How will the EU actually support them specifically in making this transformation? Is this Digital Europe program that you just spoke about actually designed to do that in the individual cases?
Europe will help through many different instruments, from Horizon Europe, which sets up a dedicated public-private partnership on that topic, to the Digital Europe program, which sets up, for example, a network of digital innovation hubs that can help enterprises to update the technology, to the development of the manufacturing data spaces, which is really important to use AI in manufacturing, but also through the Recovery and Resilience Facility. That is probably the biggest program in terms of budget and in terms of availability of budget that we have. I am pleased to see that many countries are introducing Industry 4.0 as a main chapter for that particular program. And this is European budget. This is a central, this is distributed by the European Commission to the member states, and the European Commission will work with the member states to make sure that that budget is invested in ways that are truly delivering on the economic growth and the societal well-being.
Okay, but nevertheless, there are a lot of disparities. We'll be speaking with our CLC directors this afternoon who are dealing with very, very different geographies also around Europe. How can we ensure that we don't end up with some European countries traveling at different speeds, i.e. the digitally advanced and the ones that possibly have been left behind until now?
On the one hand, I think we can use our European network of digital innovation hubs. As I said earlier, we're in the process of setting up with the Digital Europe program a European network of hubs, which is very well widespread across European regions. Our ambition has always been to have at least one hub in each region in the European Union. And these hubs should really help small, medium enterprises also in the most peripheric regions of the European Union to learn and to use digital technology, including artificial intelligence. And secondly, we still have our structural funds. So these are funds, the European Union funds that have existed since the setup of the European Union and which can be really used to support developments in the area of digital in the regions that are most disadvantaged. And I think that the focus on investment will be even more important in the next 7 years.
Okay, thank you very much, and obviously good news that that budget has finally been given the green light to go ahead. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and greetings to Brussels, Lucy Lacioli.
Thank you for having me.
So, my dear participants, let's hope that we've got all the sound issues put to the side for now. Next up, I'd like to introduce Peter Droll, who is the Director for Prosperity at the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. Now, he's been working with the European Commission since 1991 in quite a number of capacities, particularly involved in things like EU enlargement negotiations and for innovation policy and European research area policy. So he's going to speak to us this morning about the topic of advanced manufacturing in Horizon Europe. And I'm just going to check with my technical crew here if we've got him on screen, and if I can bid a good morning to Peter Droll. We might have to wait just a moment here.
Yes, Karen, I can hear you very well. I hope
you can hear me, Peter. Good morning.
Okay, so if you can hear me, that's very good, very reassuring. So, you mentioned already the good news about the EU budget. I have more good news. At 5:30 this morning, there was an agreement on the Horizon Europe program. So we can really go ahead with our ambitious plans. And my key message for this morning is it's all about impact and acceleration. And we don't have the luxury of time anymore. Now, let me see whether I can change the slide. Yes, so about impact.
If I could just interrupt, I've been asked to ask you to switch to presenter mode. Can you do that so that we can see your slides? You have to swap displays.
Okay.
Just a little technical note.
Okay, give me a minute. Give me a second.
These are the sorts of things that we deal with all the time. Absolutely no worries.
Yes, so taskbar. Good, so.
I'm hoping we can get maybe we can just get Peter back on the screen and he can continue
Yes, I do without
making his presentation. He's going to do it without his
slides.
slides, I think. Francesco, just bring him back up on the screen is fine. There we go. So Peter, I can see you and I can hear you loud and clear. I'm very sorry to have interrupted. Obviously that's not working, but I'll just let you continue. Continue with the good news, please.
So yeah, we can start with a program with Horizon Europe, already mentioned by Lucy. I don't have the latest budget figures yet, but it should be more than 15 billion in the what we call the cluster for digital industry and space. And that's a substantial amount of investments which are needed and in which the manufacturing industry is key. We know how strong we are in manufacturing in Europe, and we need to do more. We have also earlier this morning an agreement on the at least 55% reduction targets compared to 1990 for greenhouse gas emissions. That is a major acceleration and requires substantial breakthroughs in technologies and substantial investments. And what the focus of our investments in the coming 4 years will be on 3 strategic orientations. And that is making Europe the first digitally led, circular, climate neutral and sustainable economy. This requires global leadership, and we have taken the leadership here. And European companies are top in holding green patents. The second is promoting open strategic autonomy by leading the development of key digital and enabling and emerging technologies. So the new stuff which is coming. And the third key orientation for this cluster is creating a more resilient, inclusive, and also democratic European society. Let's not forget that the strong industrial base is a very good protection against rising nationalism. We see that the regions which are left behind are easily victim to populist and nationalist policies. So this is what is coming up in cluster 4, and Lucy mentioned the industry 4.0, digital twins, zero defect, anticipative maintenance. All this we will build on what we have already achieved in previous investments with our strong partnership, Factors of the Future, which will continue with Made in Europe, which is already a program in itself, because it's about increasing this strategic autonomy we are seeking to reduce our dependencies, which requires more resilient manufacturing. But I think it's important for us to go one step further. We need to go from Industry 4.0 to Industry 5.0. We will soon publish a concept paper on this. It's basically, in a nutshell, it is about recognizing the power of industry, of our companies, to lead globally the transition to the digital economy and to the sustainable circular economy, to climate neutrality. And that is not possible if we don't put the worker, the intelligence of the worker, the skills of the worker in the center of this transition. And something which will come up as a future orientation in our investments in all these priorities under cluster 4. What is very important to be aware of is that we will also need to be more resilient, more flexible. And that's a key issue where we have already invested in the past in modular manufacturing. In my opinion, this trend will be stronger than before. The recovery and resilience facility mentioned by Lucy in her speech is all about that, building back better, being more resilient. And there we count on the manufacturing industry to be leading in the first place in helping us to be more resilient, and if new shocks will come after this pandemic, that we will be better prepared. Actually, manufacturing has played a hugely important role in helping us facing this pandemic, and we launched an emergency call earlier this year with some manufacturing topics, and I'm very proud of European industry how fast and effectively we answered these challenges. So the second element I wanted to underline is really about this acceleration. We no longer have the luxury of the time, and that is something which really a characteristic of our investment portfolios and programs. And here I would ask you not only to look at the cluster digital industry and space, but also take all the opportunities from within Horizon Europe, the European Research Council, but also the European Innovation Council, and look at also the follow-up funding. Lucy mentioned the Digital Europe program for green investments. There are completely new opportunities under the European Innovation Fund in particular, so that we have the maximum of impact and fast. So we are here at the EIT's Manufacturing Summit, and I'm very happy about the existence and our cooperation with the knowledge and innovation community on manufacturing. In order to meet this challenge of acceleration and more impact, we need to work even better together. I can imagine, we have many different tools. It could be joint calls, it could be joint workshops, it could be joint platforms, being together in the different fora. And I would like to build on the very good start we had together, and to strengthen this cooperation with our friends and colleagues in the European Innovation Institute of Innovation and Technology. And I saw also from Dimitri's summary this morning that we very much, that confirmed that we're very much on the same line. So in conclusion, briefly, we expect a lot. We have a very strong basis to expect a lot from the manufacturing industry. In the update of the industry policy, which the Commission will present in early next year, ahead of the Spring European Council, we will look more into that. The acceleration will be a key topic there, on greening, on digital transformation, on resilience. So we will accompany these investments with the appropriate policy measures on alliances, on ecosystems, on the right competition framework, so that we can keep our strengths where we have them, develop them where we are not yet that strong, in order to have a strong integrated European Union based on a strong industrial base. Thank you very much. I close
very much,
here.
Peter. We can get back into split screen there so that you can see me. Thank you very much for giving us all that information on Horizon Europe. I'm just wondering if we can touch on that again, because there's an awful lot of instruments at work here, just a lot of material, obviously, also for the participants to absorb. We see a lot of very rich knowledge and exciting results that were achieved and generated by the relevant programs in Horizon 2020. And obviously we're looking forward to more with Horizon Europe. How do you think Horizon Europe can facilitate further knowledge valorization so that we don't lose any momentum, even in periods of, like we've just gone through through of uncertainty?
Yeah, well, that's a very important point. And actually, more generally, we don't do that well in knowledge valorization. It's a question of scale up. It has to do a lot with the capital market, with funds for scale up, which are not research and innovation funds, but real investments. What we have learned a big lesson in the COVID crisis. We can do more with platforms. Sharing. There is a COVID platform where our research projects have shared, even before publishing their results. They've shared that, the results, made them available, made labs available for others to cope with the pandemic. And we could build on that. And actually, we have also issued a manifesto for IP, so intellectual property management related to COVID research results, for sharing more. That's one element which we can use stronger. And if you haven't seen that manifesto, please have a look, and perhaps you wish to sign it as well. There's one element, but it's much more than just Horizon Europe and what we can do there. We have, in my directorate, actually, we have started a new team on knowledge valorization, where we look together with member states, because a lot is happening with intermediaries, with intellectual property protection, with standardization, with platforms. So how we can come to a stronger, more impactful joint up approach in knowledge valorization. So Horizon, yes, but also national policies joined up at European level.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to confirm, because we had a question yesterday, and I know that this is a question on very many people's minds. So obviously, we've got the good news this morning of Horizon Europe going to be getting the green light. But can we expect, from the manufacturing perspective, can we expect the budget to grow as compared to the predecessor, Horizon 2020, especially with the growing innovation and startup dynamics on the manufacturing landscape across Europe?
Yeah. So budget is always a difficult discussion, and what I see here, we are all quite anxious.
Looking for a piece of the pie.
Yes, because there is so much more we would love to invest to. So if we had more money, we could invest it very well. But let's be very clear. I think the European Parliament gave us 4 billion more for Horizon. That's substantial. It never happened before in this negotiation on the budget. Second, so that means if we look at Horizon Europe compared to the previous program, Horizon 2020, there's a 14% increase in budget. If we calculate and compare what is comparable, so EU 27 under Horizon Europe with EU 27, so under Horizon 2020, it's a 30% increase. This is substantial. So we can, I really can see at European level there's a new recognition of the importance of research and innovation investment for our productivity, for our integration, and manufacturing plays a very, very important role in that and has a good share of the cake, as you said.
And making sure that we're not entirely dependent on supply chains that are located very far outside of our continental borders. Thank you very much for bringing us all of that information. Peter Droll, joining us from Brussels, Director for Prosperity at the DG for Research and Innovation. Thanks very much for coming to join us this morning. Dear participants, we have a short break coming up, and because our overarching theme, obviously, over today as well, is Europe's industry as a catalyst for change, we're going to listen to a few of our CLC directors, who I mentioned already once, and see what they say about how manufacturing can be a driver for transformation.
Absolutely no doubt, digitalization. That's the key word.
Energy storage, that is really important to have more efficient use of wind power and sun power, etc. So energy storage is one. The other one, in order to have the electrification working, we need a lot more battery production and more efficient batteries.
We are in the middle of a transformation from mechatronic systems to digital value-added networks.
Fully connected, flexible, and hyper-efficient.
the new manufacturing model will make use of technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality.
I'm really thrilled by what digitalization and the use of data, combined with artificial intelligence, can bring to the manufacturing industry in Europe.
This integration of the new technologies can be a real competitive advantage for European manufacturers.